What's up, and welcome to Groundbreaking, a friendly original podcast celebrating and sharing the stories of young creatives across the music industry who are embarking on and writing their own journeys. Each episode, we feature a new up-and-comer, discuss their work, and make sure we leave you with the takeaway too. I'm Jake Brewer. Let's get started. I'm joined today by Bucky Driedger, currently the label manager at Birthday Cake Records, but bringing with him an impressive career in artistry, booking, engineering, and so much more. As somebody who plays multiple roles across music myself, I'm especially excited to chat with Bucky today about how an experience in one role can really change the way we approach a different one. We'll also be discussing this anti-label rhetoric that feels more and more abundant, and hear what Bucky thinks every artist and creative signing their name on the dotted line should look for to make signing an agreement less intimidating and more safe for your work too. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Groundbreaking. If you've been listening to the show already for a few episodes, you already know I'm going to say I'm really excited for this episode and this one specifically. And I say that every single time, but that's just because every single episode this season specifically has been really just monumental for me in the way that I think about music. And even just the next day getting to work after we record these conversations, I'm thinking about things differently. I'm going back and I'm re-listening to these, and I'm having the time of my life having these conversations. And I'm really excited, surprise, for our conversation today because in my habit of deep diving into indie music, I have come across a few of the names that I will be bringing up today. And I'm really excited to be kind of getting a closer look as to the label side of things, because and our guest might already jump in and want to fight me on some of the things I'm about to say, which is okay. I feel like there's a lot of anti-label rhetoric and things that are being said right now, and part of me doesn't want to believe it, and part of me wants to kind of learn things for myself. And so that's my goal for today. But our guest today has done so many incredible things over an incredible career, and I'm really excited to ask a lot more questions. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Bucky Driedger, welcome to Groundbreaking.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jake. I'm excited to chat.
Of course. And did I say your last name right? Because I was so scared.
You crushed
Okay,
it.
great. I had it. I wrote it phonetically multiple times right in front of me, and I literally glanced down as I was saying it. Okay. Because I was saying that's the worst way to start a podcast is pronouncing the guest's name wrong, and then you're like, great, this is going to go so well. Okay, I don't even know. I don't even know where to start. And folks who listen routinely will know I don't really ever prep for these because I like to just think about what the listener would ask. But I wrote down the most questions I think I ever have for any episode for you. So get scared about that. I feel like we should just start because people know a little bit about your career, and this is the worst question to always start with, and I'm not going to ask you to tell me about yourself, but I want to know, I guess let's start here. What was the first day of your career? What were you doing, and what did you think of music at that point?
I mean, in music in general, in my music career?
Sure, as far back as you want to go.
Sure. I mean, I think, and this still, I still feel this about myself, my whole musical career journey has been rooted in this deep desire to learn about new music, discover new music, tell people about new music. That's when I was a teenager and sort of starting to build out a bit more my own musical taste beyond my parents' record collection and my brother's record collection and stuff. I was just always on the hunt to so I'd seek out the weird kids in my high school that were listening to different stuff and hang out with them. And cause I was legit just curious about new music and new sounds, and music has always just been something that's been really important for my soul and for my heart. And I loved finding new ways of feeling music. And that's the core value I carry with me still, I think, today. But I mean, like a lot of people that end up in the music business, like I started in high school listening to lots of records, making bands with my friends that weren't great, but like having the time of our
We
lives.
all have to go through it. We all have to go through it. It's a
Yeah,
rite of passage.
yeah.
Yep.
um, and then yeah, I mean, when I kind of like finished college, I had been writing a bunch of music with one of my roommates. We put out a couple records and toured around Canada a bunch, and then we kind of started this other band called Royal Canoe, and that was sort of my main musical project for about, and still is. It's ongoing, but that started about in 2009, and we're coming up celebrating the 10th anniversary this fall of kind of the record that like launched our career
Wow.
like a bit more internationally. So we're like planning this like vinyl box set and some like shows and stuff like that. So it's really kind of been an exciting time of like reflection in general. But I mean, I think my music career really, really started with Royal Canoe. And while we did have like some team around us, managers and labels and different folks, like we were always very much of the mind that like no one's ever going to care about our band as much as we are. So we need
Yeah.
to be the engine that drives this forward. So like we just all like learned a bunch of stuff, like whether that was like tour booking, graphic design, marketing, social media. Like we just tried to figure out as much stuff on our own as we could because we kind of just had that drive to like be the authors of our career, even if we had all these other people, supporting us. And so I think that's kind of what that was the same with my previous projects too. And I think just being in bands was sort of what got me
Yeah.
into the music industry at first. Um, and I think I just kind of like had a knack for it and kind of liked it. I kind of liked that organizational part of things, which like isn't always the case with all musicians. And so I kind of had this role in the band of kind of being that guy. Um, and yeah, that sort of led me into like a lot of my other music industry roles. So like I spent about 5 or 6 years starting and running a booking agency called First Date Touring, which is still going. Um, so I was always the guy that was like tour managing our band and routing our tours along
Yep.
with our agents and stuff. So just kind of learned it along the way and decided to put that into practice and got to work with some really, really cool artists there that were making really, really awesome music. And then yeah, most recently been here at Birthday Cake Records as the label manager, which has been really, really, really fun. Like uh it's, I think, moving from the agency, while I really liked it, just being a little closer to the art and a bit closer to having conversations with artists more about what is it about your art that makes you tick? What is it
Yeah.
about your art that you want to tell people? What is like the heart of your creative practice, and how can I help you tell the world that and get more ears into your music? So I'm sure I've missed some things along the way, but like that's like the Coles notes of my journey, I guess.
That's amazing. I It's so refreshing to me to hear somebody who kind of did the just not even I wouldn't even call it a transition. I'll call it like just an expansion of doing more of what you love. And I think that's something I really just admire about music today is you're not just stuck to one role. Like you don't have to just be an artist. You can do so many other things. And I am so young in my career that I feel like it's such a privilege to kind of be joining at that sort of time. Did you feel like it was hard because you were doing that for your band, but maybe once you started to go and work with artists that weren't you and you started like the agency specifically, did you feel like it got harder to balance two things that you really care about because time is a finite thing? Or do you feel like you made the time for the things that you love?
I mean, I think I might answer that question differently given on a different day,
Sure,
like
sure.
sometimes I feel like I'm in a really good rhythm of, balancing like a creative practice with the work side of things. And some days the work really just has to take priority and takes over. I mean, to be also honest, like I'm in a different phase of my life. I'm a little bit older now. I don't need to be on the road hundreds of days a year anymore. And so like there's just a bit, I do have a bit more time to be around to do like the work, quote unquote. At the same time, I have really, really discovered that it has been important for even just my own like mental well-being and heart to like keep creative practice as a part of my
Yeah.
routine and build it into my life, because even if it's not like a full-blown like project, just that act of creating is like, it's how I've always found my footing and my
Yeah.
sort of like emotional stability in a way. And and so I just like need to do it to like stay healthy.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you feel like
But
no, go ahead. I'm not going to cut you off
no,
ever.
I mean, I was just gonna say that the stakes maybe feel a bit like when I was like in my early 20s, like starting the band and really, really hustling for it, like the stakes felt like the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so I know what that feels like. And I'm in a place now where the stakes don't feel as high. Like the act of creating for me is more about the feeling I need to get, or the just yeah the act of exploring is the thing in and of itself. And I think even within Royal Canoe, while we're still like a active band and an active business, we've all gotten to a place where like we we're prioritizing the parts of the band that are life-giving,
Yeah.
I guess, to put
Yeah.
it short. Yeah.
How did the other roles that you adopted through your career, how did that make you a better artist?
I mean, did it? I'm wondering if it did. Like
I'm sure
it
it did.
certainly it certainly made it made me certainly more maybe in tune or aware of how people receive music. um, and when it came to trying to tell people about what was being created, I think I had a better language to like shape that narrative how best reflected the art, rather than just trying to like, here's art, accept it, like it. But that's not really like necessarily the artistic or creative practice in and of itself. So maybe, I mean, this is a bit of a not connected answer, but just like the fact of just like doing a bunch of like travel and work with both the band and my job and meeting lots of people and learning about what other people are listening to. And that's still like ingrained into me. And I just like if I'm at like a music industry conference now as like an industry person or whatever, like the people I end up connecting with the most are the people that want to like nerd out about what albums they're listening
Yeah,
to most recently or whatever. Like it's not the shop talk as much, although that can be fun in its own way. But
sure.
it's just like the people I end up forming more long term, like both friend and business connections with, are the ones that just seem to still love music and discovering it. And the sort of old crusty jaded folks
Yeah,
aren't as like, I'm not as like excited about collaborating with or doing things with.
I
Yeah.
know. Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you think, just from the kind of multiple perspectives that you have, what do you think, what's something the artist should really know and respect about the team? And what's something the team should really know and respect about the artist that maybe you just don't know unless you have been in those roles specifically?
Oh man, that's a good one. I think like I'll start with maybe what the team needs to know or respect about an artist. Like your job doesn't exist without the artist is thing number one.
Yeah.
Like you have to be a careful and compassionate and and gentle shepherd of this person's art. Like you are you're part of their team, and it is part of your job to help try and translate that art into a package that maybe more people will want to like invest in or listen to or whatever. But like at the end of the day, you need to be this is something that's like from a person's heart, and you need to be careful about how you shepherd that into
Yeah.
the world and be respectful of it. It's like, I feel like it is a true gift to be able to do that. And I think you can lose sight of it in the millions of emails and whatever stuff. And you've got to keep reminding yourself about you're here to help serve this art. And I think too many people in the industry forget that sometimes. Anyone that started in the industry, I think, probably was a music fan at some point, and so you
And
don't lose that.
hopefully still is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the other side, like certainly, like when I was a young, hungry artist in my early 20s, like of course, like I said before, no one is ever going to care about your art as much as you do, and that is not a knock on your teams or the people you work with. Like that is just like
The truth.
that is just a fact. Like you are the one that's in it. You've been in every Pro Tools wave file, and you turned every knob that made every tone, and you comped every vocal. Like you've been in the minutia like no one else. So I don't think it's fair to expect that of your team, but I think it is very fair to expect that they bring as much passion with the tools they have to offer to the mix. And I think for artists, it's important to remember that, hey, there's no way that this team person is going to necessarily like get every single corner about every single thing I want to do. But as long as they are like engaged, communicative, and are willing to like make changes and move as the project requires, then they're doing that job. And I think when I was younger, I had unrealistic expectations of what our team could do. And I also think some of our teams could have done better. So
Sure.
I've taken all of that with me into this role. And it's by no means to say that I'm perfect and I mess up a bunch of times too, but I try to own those mistakes, make a path forward to fix them, and move ahead. But I think the long and the short of it is I think I've brought that sort of feeling of being disappointed by my team to this job. And that's not to mean I like saddle myself with guilt, but it's just like knowing that messing like a detail up can be really hurtful to an artist, even if you don't mean it that
Yeah.
way. And so I don't, if an artist reacts to something I've messed up or whatever, I don't take that as like a personal affront. I don't think it's irrational. It's just, I get it. You're really close to it. It's an
Yeah.
emotional part of who you are. And I want to work with you to help make it right.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you feel like I'm so tempted to ask you another like from two points of view question, and I just might. But what do you think you as an artist look for in a team, and what do you think a team should look for in an artist? And maybe it doesn't have to be maybe that general, but just more so like you personally. Like what makes you go like as an artist go like wow, and as a team member go like wow.
Yeah. I mean, from an artist perspective, I think like you kind of hinted off the top where there's like anti-label rhetoric out
Yeah.
there. I've got all the time in the world for that.
Okay,
Like,
great, because that's next.
yeah, okay. I mean, we can dive into it a bit later, but and what I mean by that is like, yes, I work at a label, but I really truly believe that each artist has different needs, different teams and type of people and ways people work differently for different artists and the path they want to go on and the career they want to make for themselves. And so I think as an artist, it's important to sort of identify, like, this is maybe oversimplifying it, but like, hey, here's like 5 artists whose career arc I relate to, and if I could go on a similar arc, that would be great. And then figuring out, okay, what are the sort of like pieces and resources I need to get there? Are these things I can do by myself? Are these things I can like pay someone a fee to outsource and do the task on an ad hoc basis? are these things I need like an ongoing team that's like getting commission or whatever to do? And I think every artist case is different.
Yeah.
Um, from the team side of things, I think this will sound corny, but it is honestly true. Don't work with an artist that you don't get fired up about their music.
Yeah.
It is so hard to do good work if you just don't have that fire. And I think a rule of thumb in our office is like there has to be at least one, if not more, like champion of an artist, like a new artist that we're going to work with.
Yeah.
There has to be someone who's just like, who gets it, who connects with it on like a heart gut level, who's going to like be the engine in the office that helps the thing go forward. And that is, you know, so important. And I mean, obviously there are extraneous like factors as well. Like, hey, is this person going to be someone we think like their workflow style works well with us, and vice versa? Like, is this going to be like a relationship that feels positive on both sides? Like, we don't want them to feel like we're not the right fit, or vice versa. You know, there's like some interpersonal stuff there too. And then, you know, there's like, it's a business at the end of the day too, even though whatever, it's like it's a very heart driven business,
Of course.
but you want to be able to see a path forward with the artist to like, you know, I think every artist wants to grow their career into something that's like, if they want to be an artist for life, like a long-term sustainable thing. And I think you need to collectively be able to see that, a path towards that together that's like possible.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you're right, there isn't a simple like a strategy for every single artist, because you ask any artist what their goal is and it's going to be a different answer. And what a crazy question to even try to begin to answer too. Okay, let's talk about labels and what a lot of the conversation is now. And I also kind of want to hit the point about like indie labels too. And for anybody listening that doesn't really like necessarily know like label structure, etc., we can get into all of that too. I feel like recently, maybe it's just because I'm more tuned into conversation, but it does feel like there's a little bit more of this rhetoric of like, you know, a label is just gonna take, you know, X% from you. You don't need them. They're just looking for success that's happening already. So if they're reaching out to you, it probably means you're good to go already. Like, you don't need them. They're only trying to like tag along at a certain point. And I've always been like a little bit hesitant about that. I don't know if I've even made up my own mind. I don't think I have enough experience in that. But I want to kind of hear from you, when you kind of started this role with managing Birthday Cake Records, and what kind of idea you had of a label when you were stepping into that role, because I think that's the good place for us to start.
Yeah, I mean, I stepped in when the label was kind of already rolling in a smaller way before I got here. And I think a big reason I was attracted to working here was because of sort of the mission and spirit around the label. And the label was part of, two of the three like founders of the label are currently active touring recording artists.
Nice.
From a band called the Brothers Landreth. And so there was a lot of like coming into a place where I knew that people really had a lot of like lived experience. They know what it was like to be in a van for 12 hours in between a badly routed tour, or like, you know, be in the studio burning the midnight oil every night, and just like had viscerally felt all the things that artists had felt, because that was something that you know, I had experienced through my various journeys as an artist through the industry, where, you know, we've been blessed with some really, really great team people throughout our journey, but there were certainly cases where it felt like there was just not a lot of like respect or compassion or understanding for what it feels like to be an artist. So coming into a label where that feeling and that spirit was sort of incorporated into all of our decision making and charting paths forward was really really refreshing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like gut checking that goes on, like when we're like working on deals or working on marketing plans or whatever. It's like yelling across the room like, hey Dave, would you sign this, like, is
Yeah.
or does this feel like yucky, like just kind of like gut checking each other on like trying to put yourself in that artist mindset, as we have both lived it, and feel like, we can stand behind what we're doing. And yeah, I mean, again, like, we're never going to be perfect because
Yeah.
we're human, but I can pretty confidently say that I think this is going to be a bit cocky, but I'm just really happy with our team
Yeah.
here and all
It's
the
all
work
right.
we do. But just like, I think like we work really hard, like more than most. I think we bring a ton of like lived experience to the equation. And I think we just try to approach things from a place of compassion and understanding and and drive that I hadn't really experienced before uh, from a ton of my industry sort of interactions. And that's not a blanket statement by any means. I've been, again, feel really fortunate for some of the industry relationships I've had along the way and people that have been really key in pushing artist career forward. But um, yeah, we've also learned a lot from the negative experiences and just trying to not repeat those. And yeah, I think, probably one of the key things of that, sorry, I'm on a ramble here,
No,
but
I
this
love
is
it.
like really what fires me up about it is like, we try to be like as transparent and communicative as possible. So like, yes, we do have to write contracts and we do have to like do all that industry stuff, but we are never trying to like pull the wool over someone's eyes. If there's something in the contract that feels weird, we want to make sure that if someone wants to walk line through something with me over like 3 hours, like that's what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
because it's just like, as the artist, like, there were a number of times through my career where someone put a piece of paper in front of me to sign and said, this is industry standard, just sign it. Which, like, can I swear on this show?
Go for it. If you feel compelled, I think you should.
Well, that's fucking bullshit. Like, as an artist that is signing over any certain amount of rights to the thing you made from your heart, you deserve the respect
Yeah.
of understanding the mechanics of it. And I know it gets messy and it is hard to wrap your head around those things. And we have had cases where we need to talk about things again later down the line. But like, I really, really try to do my very best to leave there are no awkward questions.
Yeah.
I would rather us feel like this is clear sooner than later than have it feel weird down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect sentiment and something that I think I'm really hoping I would believe, and I think I do now more. So you kind of gave me the answer of that I really just desperately kind of wanted to hear. Of I think clear is a key word in there. Of like a contract, I think is so scary because it feels binding. It feels like it's written in a certain way that you like aren't really supposed to understand, and that you would read it one way, but like it would hold up in a court in a different way. Like it feels like you almost have to like read it 8 times and read it 8 different ways to actually fully understand what it's saying. And it feels intentional sometimes, whether neither party is even trying to do that. But I think it's something that I've really tried to adopt is like it's just for clarity. It's for so if A happens, this happens. If B happens, like this is how everything works. So once you get started, it's just what you're both there to do, to enjoy, do your work, and you don't have to be like, wait, what is it's this? And it's all the hypotheticals, which makes it scary. But I think it shouldn't be something so intimidating. And I like your approach of like, yeah, well, however long it takes, we'll read, we'll comb through it like line by line, because it's really just trying to protect both parties, not necessarily from each other, but just from growth and what that can cause in in terms of a relationship?
Yeah, for sure. I
Okay,
mean,
good.
like, there's
I was
no,
like, is that right?
yeah, I mean, no, 100%. It is like, I sometimes even feel bad sending a contract because it is like
Yeah,
this legal document that can be like pretty convoluted, but certainly at least our intention is not to be um, like mysterious or whatever. It's like, yeah, we just are trying to make clear as many sort of like permutations and scenarios as we
yeah,
can so that like we're on the same page and like, you know, you know, we want us to feel like we're like protecting any investment we're making, and we want the artists to feel like they're protecting the investment they've made into their project and their art too. And it is really a two-way thing, and it is a conversation. Like, if any industry person ever tells you just sign this, it's industry standard, or is trying to really rush it along and not leave room for conversation, uh, that's a big red flag
yeah,
to me.
yeah,
And yeah, there's going to be sometimes things in a contract that maybe you're like, okay, I concede to that even though I don't like it, but maybe you get something somewhere else or whatever the case may be. And I don't think that's nefarious. It's just the nefarious part is the, hey, I'm trying to like obscure something from you so that I can maybe get a leg up like that. That's icky stuff.
yeah. Could you share with us anything that an artist looking at a label deal or something like, maybe, and you don't, by all means, you don't not have to give us an extensive list, but like, what are like a few key things that you think the average artist signing even just the smallest of deal could really just go, oh, okay, wait, yeah, like I listened to that podcast that one time Bucky said to do this. Do you have like a little like a something that they could just like, just to get them started when they look at a contract, maybe that won't scare them as much because they know one thing to look for?
Sure, sure. I mean, first, okay, I'm going to just preface by saying outside of the contract, uh, if you're going to like get into a partnership with anyone in the industry, got to have a vibe check.
Yep.
Just like, it has to be someone that you think like gets what you do and you think like is genuinely interested in helping propel your career forward. I think that's truly important. And there are like, on both sides, I think there's sometimes relationships where it's like, hey, we could both benefit from each other, but the vibe situation isn't there, and that's fine. Like, whatever. Anyway, that is like a truly important thing, is to work with people that you think get you and that you think can speak your language and all that stuff. But in a contract, a few things, like key things to look for, are like revenue split. So like in a label contract, there's usually a percentage the label gets and a percentage the artist gets after recouping costs that go into the making and marketing of the record. There's usually a term. So like, how long does that label have the rights to have that split from my record? And that can be anywhere from 1 year to 100 years. Like, it goes all over the map. But term, split, revenue split, and maybe a third one to look for would be like option albums. So like,
Okay.
does this label have the sort of right of first refusal on my next project, sort of thing?
Interesting.
That's some vague without getting into like the specifics of our
Sure.
deal
Yeah.
structures. Like, those are like some pretty key points you would see on most any label contract,
Okay,
would have
nice.
some iteration of those elements.
Okay, great. Hopefully everybody wrote that
Yeah.
down, because I feel like it's the getting started and getting like your first like this. Whenever I always like to print out anything too, and always like hold it, and then I'll be like, this was the worst decision. Like, this just feels like a heavy like thing. I don't want to put my signature anywhere on this. But I think having some
Yeah.
place to start is really, really useful. With our remaining time, I kind of want to dive into a little bit of your role now, but also a little bit throughout your career, of like how you grew and built relationships. Because you've emphasized a few times now, like, I've, been able to keep up with just great industry relationships that have helped you time and time again through different aspects of your career. Maybe we go back to the booking agency to start, because you said you started that. What did you do to start to build clientele? Because I think because I hope that there are people listening who are like wanting to start something like that on their own. But when I feel like the first question a potential client would ask you is like, oh, well, what have you done? And if you don't if you're just starting out, like, how do you answer that question? So
Yeah.
how did you answer that question? Or how did you get around answering that question?
I mean, I think for me, because I had already had a number of years like touring around, being in a band, um, meeting lots of other musicians, making lots of artist friends, having people sleep on my couch when they were
Yeah.
touring through my city, like just becoming like road buds sort of thing. Like that's kind of where the booking agency, like my first sort of clients just began with like buds or buds of buds that like they knew I was like a good guy that worked hard and were down to like give it a go sort of thing, and then kind of slowly built from there. So like if you're not an artist that's already been touring, I think it's just like important to like be around in your scene, go to shows, buy records you like from local artists or whatever, and just start sort of like getting a feel for like the scene in your town. And maybe that's a place you start
Yeah.
with, helping out some artists like in your own community and growing from there.
Yeah. I think that's great. I live in New York, so I feel like there's no shortage of folks who are always looking to
I've
collaborate and do
heard,
that. So that's amazing.
I've heard there's a few
There's yeah,
musicians out
there are a
there.
couple
Yeah.
artists live out here. Um, then to the label, what have you kind of done in your role to go like, this is what I can bring to the table. This is how I'm helping Birthday Cake grow. Because I know there's different, because there's publishing, there's management as well. But like, how have you focused with the label to grow, maybe not only in like number of clientele, but to improve the relationships with maybe anybody existing when you join too?
Yeah, I mean, I I do think like, part of what I bring to the label is that artist experience, and I think that I'm able to just be a person that can chat with our roster in a way where I've lived some of the situations that they're currently experiencing, and so I hope to be a person that they feel like they can come through to chat. Like people sometimes just call me about something not label related, but just like I'm in this artist specific situation and I'm just curious for your
Yeah.
sort of 2 cents on it. And like I really want to be that person for people as they want. And I think that's kind of what a big part of what has set us apart from other labels has just been that um, I think by and large our artists just like feel comfy knowing that people have lived some of the stuff that they're currently living, and have that sort of in mind as they chart the path forward with them.
Yeah. Let's combat this labels just take a percentage kind of idea. What what do you, and I mean, I love specifics, but I'm not going to put you on the spot of like, what are some things that maybe you've been able to do within your time that you're like, oh, I loved doing this, or like we got to do like this really cool thing, just to kind of prove to anybody listening who might still have like a little bit of doubt in their stomach of, do I trust a label in
Yeah,
general? Of course, you got to, read between the lines on your own per label by label, but how do we calm some maybe final nerves?
yeah. I mean, like first of all, I want to go back to what I said at the beginning, which is like I have time for the anti-label rhetoric, and I think that for some artists, that is not like the path that they need to take the next steps in their career. I'm by no means saying this is the only way to success is to sign to a label. With that said, I do think that like when we decide to like work with an artist and an artist decides to work with us, that I mean, first of all, we're bringing, anywhere from 3 to 8 people, just human power into your fold. So
Yeah.
that can be anything from distribution logistics, physical mailing logistics, uh, big picture marketing strategy, very minute marketing strategy, social media planning and rollout strategy, helping you build videos and photos and content, helping you build a narrative around your record and trying to communicate that, being a quarterback for like third party publicity, radio, teams. So like if you're hiring all those teams yourself, it really does benefit you to have someone who's QBing that,
Yeah.
has all of the, trying to keep everyone kind of working in sync and playing off of each other. And oh man, so that's like a start of a
You
list. There's a bajillion things.
you
Like, I
give
mean,
us a lot. Don't worry.
like I do feel like the label in a way, like maybe only second to like a manager, is sort of like I do, our business is around like the songs themselves and the recorded music and selling that and trying to get that into as many ears as possible. But at the same time, I really do view the label's role as like a bit more holistic than that. Like we were trying to push an artist's career forward because if they're doing well, then it's good for us and it's good for them
Yeah.
and it's good for everybody. So there are a lot of times I'm stepping out of sort of the like straight nuts and bolts business of what we do just to be like, hey, this is good to like help advance this artist's career. And that's like
Yeah.
good business, in a way, in a maybe a less tangible way. So, I mean, sure, if a label's just going to like sign you, put your record on the internet, and then twiddle their thumbs, like, well, yeah, you can just do that. Um,
Yeah.
but I think if you have like a bit more of a machine of passionate people that have like different areas of expertise, like I would say in the case of Birthday Cake, like you're sort of getting a distribution, sync pitching partner,
Yeah.
a marketing partner, a social media managing partner. Like you're getting a bunch of different resources that you now kind of have
Yeah.
access to. I've never like said it this way, but like it's like you're signing up for like the Adobe suite of
I like it.
label deal services or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
How do you guys decide that internally? Is that something where like you're like, oh, this person social media, this person other market, this person, physical distribution. This do you, or is it like more of a collective environment between you and the team?
Like how we divvy that up between the staff, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are people that sort of have different areas of expertise that they're particularly have a knack for, but because we're like a smaller independent label, you kind of get your hands in to everything. So like I am equally hopping on the phone with like bigwigs as I am packing records and putting them in the mail.
Yeah.
So like kind of doing a little bit of everything that needs to get done.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, well, I always say one more question, then I usually end up thinking of another. But I like to end every episode with a very clear takeaway because one of my biggest kind of issues with a lot of podcasts that may be similar to this is they'll end and I'll be like, I don't really know what the next step is to do something. Like it'll be like, okay, yeah, like follow my gut, trust my heart. Like, yeah. Like I got all that. And you gave a ton of things today, from what to look at in a contract to the kind of questions and how to vibe check with a potential label agreement. But if somebody has another 40 minutes right now, and or maybe tomorrow morning, or maybe next week, and you can maybe go as specific as an artist or anybody else in music, or just give something more general. What is something that they could do? Like if they can write one thing on their to-do list right now, what would you tell them to write down that would just make them feel like they took a step forward?
Hmm. I think a big thing if you want to like, if you're trying to like integrate your art into the industry of things, is have like, even if it's like a write down where, if you had your dream where you would see yourself in 5 years, that's like, feels like a high school guidance counselor question, but that's okay. And then start thinking about filling in the gaps of like, what are the things that would need to happen? What are the tools I might need? What are the people I might need as part of my team? And that just gives you a bit more of a clear direction.
Yeah. Clarity
But
has been a theme
yeah,
in this conversation,
yeah,
which I really like.
yeah. But I also want to say, and I know this is like a tried and true trope in the music world, but it's just like, it is the most true thing ever, is like, before any of that, make the best thing you can make from yourself and be ready to stand behind that before you like do much else.
Yeah.
Like we are very non-medley in our artistic practice here. It's more like, you make the thing that you can get behind. You're the one that's got to play these songs every night on tour and work it and do it every day. Like, don't do it for us, like do it for you. And then we'll work with you to figure out how we can best help translate that into like marketing and all of that other stuff. But like, it really has to start with something that like is authentic and pure to who you are. So like, just make good shit. That's like 101 music making.
I'm adding make good shit to my to-do list.
Yeah. Love it.
That's awesome. Great answer. Well, Bucky, I appreciate the time, the transparency, the honesty, all of it so much. And I know everybody listening does too. I'm going to make sure we plug everything at the very end, and it'll be in the description, everything. But one last thing I want to ask you is, if you could just snap your fingers right now, what do you wish you could change about the music industry?
I would snap my fingers and say that anyone that is still not actively a music fan goes to sell insurance.
Great.
Man, there are just so many times in my life where I've just been in a music industry experience where I'm just like, man, you sound so miserable about your job. You know, you could like use the same skills to go like sell cars and make way more money, right? Like, but instead you're here begrudgingly rubbing your jadedness off on all these like young artists that are really happy to be here doing stuff. Anyway, that's like maybe a bit dark, but it's just
no, it's true.
Man, I just would love to like, I just love and get energized by people in the industry that are still like active music lovers and discoverers. And like that's like what fires me up about the future of the music industry. And I do think that shift is slowly happening. Like, I think there is like slightly less patience now for being a shitty person in the music industry and being a curmudgeon.
Thank God.
I mean, there always will be, but I do think like, even in my like 15 plus years of like being around the industry, it seems like that is changing. People just have less patience for that. People don't want to work with people that are that way. And I hope that continues trending in that direction.
There we go. I love it. Well, again, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And best of luck with all the amazing things that are ahead for you. And congrats again on the 10 years. That's pretty sick.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for joining me today on Groundbreaking. You can check out Bucky, Birthday Cake Records, and their artists with the link in the description. I've discovered some great new music by checking them out, and I know you will too. Stay tuned for more next time on the show, and as always, be sure to rate and comment on the show from wherever you're listening. You can also connect with me at Brewer Music across all social channels and see more of what Friendly's up to at Friendly Media or by visiting friendlymedia.com. That's FRNDLY Media. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time for more Groundbreaking.